Hey everybody, itsZiz here. Welcome to Crowfall Insider, your weekly news source for all things Crowfall. And we got a ton of stuff to talk about. First, the Centaur Legionnaire is considered a support class now. We've got $2 million of backer funding, new information on what kind of future stretch goals, and also ton of information on what physics are going to look like in Crowfall. Let's jump right in. First up is the Centaur Legionnaire, which was originally going to be a melee DPS class, but recently revealed it's going to be the first support archetype they put into the game for alpha testing. Now, when they first said that, a ton of people were up in arms about it being support, but don't forget, there's no fire hose healers. So how does the Legionnaire act as a support when it's not just heal, heal, heal? Well, a little bit of the lore kind of gives you an idea about what these guys are all about. They're considered the leaders of kind of everybody. They were considered like the hierarchy, the top, the generals, the smart people who ran everything basically before the hunger. Now, this can kind of lead into a support archetype as far as putting down banners and AoE buffs and things like that. They haven't officially given any sort of specifics on what kind of abilities we're going to see, but if they're considered a tank sort of slash support class, these are the sort of things that I'm expecting to see. Buffing your allies, making them better at combat, maybe some shields and things like that. And they still have some fairly decent armor so they can be up in the front lines. Now, they have some screenshots here and different things that they showed. They're coming along nicely. They look really, really great. I think they're awesome. There's also a really funny Centaur video that they put out that you can check on the official website here. It's kind of a little riff. I think a lot of people didn't understand that it was a joke. The developers are kind of talking about how the challenges of making a centaur and being half horse, half man and all this sort of stuff, but obviously it's a joke. They've already got them in the game, they're already testing and playing with them, but it's still really awesome to see developers who are willing to go out on a limb, willing to put out this funny stuff that can be misconstrued, and I think it's awesome. The developers are continually showing me why I'm glad I backed this game. Honestly, there's some of the very best developers information that we've got out of any game I've played, and hopefully that trend continues as we move on. The next update is that they reached $2 million in total backer support. Now, from the Kickstarter, they had about 1.7 million, and in less than 3 months since then, they've raised over almost $250,000, which obviously is really great because the more money we have, hopefully the better game that we can get. They can pay their employees and get new software and all that sort of great stuff. And from this money that they've raised, they've been able to add some additional stuff. They were able to put 6 new languages for the website. They're working on German currently. They got a new graphics programmer in there to help make the game come alive even quicker, and they have the Shadow campaign, which was all part of the stretch goals they had after the Kickstarter. Now, the Shadow campaign is the guild versus guild specific campaign rule set, which fills out all 4 that they were going to have. So that's awesome. They had a quick little thank you video on here that you can watch as well. Next is the Founders Update. This is usually information we get straight from the developer like J. Todd Coleman or usually Gordon Walton. Now, this is more of like the business side of things, so it's not super exciting as far as graphics and gameplay, but a lot of good information that you should probably pay attention to. First, don't forget the Kickstarter. If you want to buy another Kickstarter package for someone, you have to have it by the end of the month. Now, they're also adding in a layaway plan that you can see here. They talk about how it works. You have to put 15% down, and then you have time to pay off the rest. So if you're not able to buy an entire Kickstarter package right now, you can put a down payment on it and then pay for it over the next few months, and then you'll be able to gift it to someone else or keep it for yourself. They also talk about their capital raise, so they're going to be selling more shares of the company, which isn't a bad thing. This was their plan all along, and they're not selling to some horrible company like EA and losing control. They still have control of the game, but this is bringing in more revenue from backers and previous investors. These are people who already bought in to the idea of Crowfall, and this is going to put more money in their pockets so we can get more game, better game, sooner game. Also, they talk about localization. German's going to be the first translation up on the website, and they talk about how 35% of the backers are from outside North America, and that's with still an English website and English Kickstarter. So this is going to put the game out there for more translations, hopefully bring in more backers and give more visibility for the game. Now, they go on to talk about their future stretch goals. They have the Bane Circle in right now, which is a type of rule set, not a rule set, but like the way that it works, what you're trying to do. The Bane Circle is the way it worked in Shadow Bane is that you would attack another guild's keep, but it'll be during a certain period of time. So let's say from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, or maybe a 5-hour window. This Bane Circle will give you a specific time where you bring all your people and all of their people, and you duke it out and see who gets control. Now, after that, they talk about future stretch goals. They hit $2 million like we just talked about, and after this, what other kind of stretch goals are they going to be putting in? Well, they talk about it here. Over delivery of launch items. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, they kind of give us a little idea. It's not super sexy, fancy things, but it's more stuff like tools and additional developers. Now, this may not be flashy and exciting, but we don't want the game to be pushed out any further. We want it to be as soon as possible and as good as possible, and these additional tools and developers are going to help do that. Also, post-launch content. So this are going to be things like new additional archetypes, different skill systems, maybe flying mounts and caravans, or, I mean, they're not going to put in stuff you don't want. It's going to be cool ideas and awesome stuff that they know they can't get in now for launch, but you want to see that really awesome naval combat? Who knows? That might be a post-launch content or system thing they could add in a future stretch goal. And also, lastly, visibility and outreach. That's going to be things like meetups and community stuff and gaming conferences like PAX and E3 and these sorts of things, that they can get Crowfall out there and get more recognition, get more backers. Maybe even, who knows, we might get a cool sort of cinematic commercial. Who knows what we're going to get, but those are the sorts of future stretch goals that we can see coming up. And last but not least is an update we got about physics, specifically relating to combat. Now, there's a huge long post here talking about they're using Unity and how physics tie into Unity. They got some funny pictures here, the developers, talking about the way that physics works, as far as in most games, use an ability and it just automatically does its thing. It doesn't take any other calculations into consideration. The size of the character who is doing the knockback and who's being knocked back, their mass, the wind resistance, their movement, all these sorts of things. Most games don't take that into consideration. It has the exact same animation that just plays over and over and over again. Well, in Crowfall, they're trying to use all these physics type things in game. So let's say you have a giant champion who's running along. They might be able to knock over or push back other smaller players. Or maybe they do a knockback ability and it's going to knock people further back than if a smaller knight did it. Those sort of things, which they say are really important and they want to put in as soon as possible, because this can add to a lot of emerging gameplay. Things that are different every time you play. You know, this time you're fighting against 10 little tiny creatures, maybe like the Fae, the assassin with the wings. They're really light and maybe they can float down to the ground so they don't take fall damage. Or the Forge Master, who's really stout and heavy, so when he lands, his character, you know, you can feel the impact. And the reason why I'm so excited about this is I play a lot of different characters. I can never seem to stay on one. And so most games, you play a different character and it feels the same. It's the same sword. You have different abilities, but it feels the same, just like the last one, in a different skin. Hopefully this is going to make it so all the archetypes feel different and they play different. So when you're on a knight, you feel super tanky. And when you're on the small quick character, you feel like, you know, that little quick person. And so this is something really exciting. It could possibly be maybe just another name for the same thing we've always seen. I don't know, maybe it's gonna feel very similar. You won't see this super cool, awesome stuff they're talking about, but hopefully it adds a lot of interesting gameplay. Is it going to affect movement speed? Is it going to change how much stuff you have in your backpack that adds mass to your character, and so that could affect the way you play the game? Lots of different things that it could affect gameplay wise here. Well, that's it for this week on Crowfall Insider for June 19th. We talked about the Centaur and the Legionnaire, how they're changing to be more of a support character. How do you feel about that? Are you excited? Do you like the idea of maybe having AoE buffs and banners and kind of leading and commanding the battlefield? Or did you like them before when they were strictly sort of a melee DPS type archetype? We also talked about the new stretch goals and that Crowfall reached $2 million backers, and how we're going to have new things coming up like the Bane Circle and the website changing into 6 languages. What do you think about that? And last but not least, the physics. How do you think physics can impact the game? Do you think you're going to notice and it's going to have a big impact on the game? Or do you think you won't really notice and it's going to be kind of the same old, same old? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.